Greetings, class. I hope you've had a great Thanksgiving break. As promised, here's a short video highlighting some of the things we talked about in class on Tuesday before Thanksgiving. First, we covered Module 3.2, which focuses on organizational change and transformation. We had touched upon some of the topics in that before Tuesday. Just to refresh your memory, one of the areas of focus that you should be looking at, especially as we approach the quiz, is the reasons why organizational change fails. There was a great article that you were asked to read that highlighted the 7 main reasons for organizational change failing, and that includes lack of communication, people with differing agendas, insensitivity, a lack of leadership, poor planning, lack of commitment, and poor processes. A second article in that module asked you to consider the costs and risks of poorly managed change. And the article outlined that the consequences of mismanaging change is that we won't achieve our desired results and outcomes, and that there are costs and risks associated with mismanaging change. I'd refer you to your content notes, where there's a nice table on the top of page 9 that highlights the costs and risks for mismanaging change at the project level, at the organizational level, and then what happens if change is not implemented. A great outline of some very specific things that can happen when you mismanage change. Another article that was in Module 3.2 that you should certainly pay attention to is the one reason why most change management efforts fail. And that one reason is battle fatigue. The fact that people and organizations go through so much change that there tends to be this fatigue that sets in that has people turn off to new ideas and following through on change management. A couple of suggestions in that article that certainly should be on your mind for how to deal with battle fatigue is identifying and celebrating early successes. And then secondly, creating cultural experiences that support the vision and keep the change train on track. So take a look at that article called One Reason Why Most Change Management Efforts Fail. In class on Tuesday, we spent a considerable amount of time talking about the Jim Collins concept of the flywheel. We talked specifically about what it meant both at the organizational level and applied it to the various companies that you've been analyzing this semester to try to identify what we thought their flywheel was. We actually got off into thinking about Twitter and some of the things happening with it to think about its flywheel. And then we related it at a very personal level to how an individual can identify the flywheel concept and have it make a difference in their life. We listened to a brief audio recording where the flywheel at the personal level that was described is someone deciding that they were going to be healthier, so they ate better, which enabled them to exercise more, which enabled them to get more rest, and then the cycle started to continue and repeat itself, and before this person knew it, they were on a path to much greater improvement in their health than if they hadn't gotten the flywheel spinning. So that was one of the major things that we did spend time in class on Tuesday talking about. We also briefly touched out of Module 3.2 on mindfulness and discussed whether or not we thought it was appropriate at the company level. As you probably remember, there were some articles in Module 3.2 and a video that specifically talked about Google and General Mills and a few other companies that were applying mindfulness in the workplace. The conclusion is that most organizations do believe that bringing mindfulness to the workplace has helped to decrease people's stress levels while improving focus and clarity, helping people have better listening and decision-making skills and overall well-being. So as we talked about it, almost no one argued with the fact that having mindfulness present in the workplace was a good idea. Moving on to 3.3, a couple things that you certainly should pay attention to, and we will touch a little bit on 3.3 in class on Tuesday. First of all, the hedgehog concept is explored in more detail in Module 3.3. And if you recall, the hedgehog concept, it sounds a lot like Ikigai, where there's three intersecting circles. You identify what you're deeply passionate about. You understand what the organization can be the best in the world at. And then you understand what drives your economic engine. The intersection of those three circles is where a company's hedgehog concept really lies. You can also think about your own personal hedgehog concept, of course. We talked briefly about big, hairy, audacious goals. Big, hairy, audacious goals, another concept coming out of the Jim Collins Good to Great book. And the fact that having a big, hairy, audacious goal often sets people in motion in a more positive and dramatic way. We discussed the example of General Electric, for example, at one point that decided it was going to be number one or number two in every market space that it occupied, which was obviously a big, audacious, ambitious goal that really got people excited, and they were able to achieve it. Then we spent some time in class thinking about organizational fit. How do you find the right company for you? And in fact, we did a little bit of a pitch competition among the students that were there. We had some winners of some Starbucks gift certificates where people pitched themselves to me about a company that, a fictitious company that I'm creating, and that they were trying to get a job with me. So congratulations to those Starbucks award winners. I hope you've enjoyed the gift certificate over the holiday. One of the things that we really touched upon is it's about organizational fit. You have to fit the organization, and the organization has to see you as a fit. So as outlined in some of the readings, we talked about the idea that you should learn about the company's mission and values. You shouldn't just look at the website to find that out. You should try to talk to employees, look at LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Indeed, other kinds of online sources to find out what employees are saying to get a real handle on what the corporate culture is. And then when you're talking to people at the organization, you should be asking questions that will help you identify what that culture is to see whether or not you're really going to fit in, and also to let them know how interested you are in that important aspect of corporate culture. The rest of Module 3 is a deep dive into the Jim Collins book. There's in the materials, there's a video that recaps all of the book itself, chapter by chapter, and then there's an outline, a written outline that gives you some of the key concepts that you should be focused on. In our class, before we take the quiz, we'll come back to the Good to Great book itself, review these quite quickly, and make sure some of those key concepts are present and ready for you to think about in terms of how you're organizing your companies, but also how they might apply to you and the organizations that you will be part of. So that's it. I look forward to seeing you in class very, very soon. Take care.